Hello children, welcome back to Rini ma'am's class. Today we are going to start a new lesson, a very interesting new lesson with the message here also. So the lesson is how I taught my grandmother to read. This is lesson 2 of our course book, and the lesson is how I taught my grandmother to read. This lesson is written by Sudha Murthy. You might be knowing about her. No? Yes. Sudha Murthy, she has written many new books related to children. She is the chairperson of Infosys Foundation, and she is married to Mr. N.R. Narayan Murthy, the founder of Infosys Foundation. Let's know more about the author. Sudha Murthy was born on August 19th, 1950. She is a social worker and writer in Kannada and English languages. Murthy began her professional career as a computer scientist and engineer. She is the chairperson of the Infosys Foundation. The wide range of Sudha's social work covers the sectors of healthcare and education, etc. Sudha met N.R. Narayan Murthy while employed as an engineer at Telco in Pune. She is blessed with 2 kids, Akshata and Rohan Murthy. The book How I Taught My Grandmother to Read has been translated in 15 languages. Now let's start with the story. This is about how a grandmother's determination makes a young girl teach her how to read. This is the story about a small girl of 12 years old who used to stay in a village in North Karnataka with her grandparents. She is the narrator here of the entire story. So those days the transport system was not very good. So we used to get the morning paper only in the afternoon. The weekly magazine used to come one day late. All of us would wait eagerly for the bus, which used to come with the papers, weekly magazines and the post. We are talking about that time when the transportation was not that easy and convenient. So the morning paper used to reach them in the afternoon and the magazine used to reach them one day late. At that time, Triveni was a very popular writer in the Kannada language. She was a wonderful writer. Her style was easy to read and very convincing. Her stories usually dealt with complex psychological problems in the lives of ordinary people and were always very interesting. Unfortunately for Kannada literature, she died very young. Even now, after 40 years, people continue to appreciate her novels. Now we are talking about a popular writer of Karnataka, Triveni. She was a very popular writer and she was so wonderful writer that people still remember and appreciate her novels. Her style was very easy to read and very convincing. Means people used to understand and very easily they get convinced with what she wanted to tell them. Her stories usually dealt with complex psychological problems. Means her stories were about it was something very complex, means consisting of many different and connected parts, and it was related to people's emotional state of a person, mental or emotional state of the person. Her stories were like that. And it was revolving around some ordinary people. So people of the village, they used to get relate with the stories very easily, and they were convinced with whatever she wanted to say. But Triveni died very early, at a very young age. But still her stories, her novels are appreciated till date. One of her novels, called Kashi Yatre, was appearing as a serial in the Kannada weekly Karmavira. It is the story of an old lady and her ardent desire to go to Kashi or Varanasi. Most Hindus believe that going to Kashi and worshipping Lord Vishveshwara is the ultimate punya. This old lady also believed in this, and her struggle to go there was described in that novel. In the story, there was also a young orphan girl who falls in love, but there was no money for the wedding. In the end, the old lady gives away all her savings without going to Kashi. So now, one of the novels of Triveni was Kashi Yatre, and that story is been given in the Kannada weekly Karmavira. Every week that story comes with one part of it. And that story is about an old lady. She has a very passionate desire to go to Kashi and pray to Lord Vishveshwara, because most Hindus at that time and even now, they believe that going and worshipping Lord Vishveshwara in Kashi will give them punya. Their life will be peaceful and beautiful. This old lady also believed in this, that her struggle to go there was described in that novel. And in the story, there was one young orphan girl who falls in love, but as she doesn't have money for her wedding, she was very upset. But this old lady gives away all her savings, with whatever she has kept, she has saved to go to Kashi. She gives it all to the old lady. Why? Do you know why? Why did she do that? She has saved all her money for so many years to go to Kashi, but why did she give the money to this young orphan girl? This old lady wanted to visit Kashi, but being an uneducated, not going to any of the school and studying any magazines or books, how she made up her mind to give all her money to this girl? Do you know why? She says the happiness of this orphan girl is more important than worshipping Lord Vishveshwara at Kashi. This is something very important. Because why? Because if we give someone happiness, that is much more important, much more valuable to us than going and worshipping the idol, the Lord in any temple, mosque or church. If we give a little small happiness to anybody, it can be a human being, it can be animals, plants, a little happiness, if we give to them, that is much more valuable than going and worshipping in any of the temple or mosque or church. If ever you have done a small deed of giving water to the plant or offering food to the street dogs, so you might have seen the happiness in their face. If you have played with a small brother or sister, you might have seen that smile and happiness in them. So that is much more treasurable and precious, isn't it? So the same thing happened with that old lady. My grandmother Krishtaka, now the narrator says, her grandmother Krishtaka never went to school, so she could not read. Every Wednesday, the magazine would come and I would read the next episode of the story to her. As she could not read, she did not visit any of the school, so she always waited for the magazine. Why? Because the story is not in one full magazine. Every week it is coming in part by part, so she waits for what is going to happen in the story. During that time, she would forget all her work and listen with the greatest concentration. Later, she could repeat the entire text by heart. My grandmother too never went to Kashi, and she identified herself with the novel's protagonist. So more than anybody else, she was the one most interested in knowing what happened next in the story and used to insist that I read the serial out to her. My grandmother was so eager to listen to the story from me that she would forget her work, and she used to listen to me very minutely, and the entire story she learns it by heart. My grandmother also, as the leading character of the novel, that old lady, she also identifies herself, relates herself with that same old lady. Why? Because she too never went to Kashi. So more than anybody else, she was the one most interested in knowing what happened next in the story. So every week she used to wait for that magazine, and she used to wait for her granddaughter to narrate the story to. After hearing what happened next in Kashi Yatre, she would join her friends at the temple courtyard, where we children would also gather to play hide and seek. She would discuss the latest episode with her friends. At that time, I never understood why there was so much of debate about the story. Now, after listening the story from the narrator, from that small 12-year-old child, she would go to her friends in the temple courtyard and narrate the entire story to them, because they too don't know how to read and write. And during that time, the children, the granddaughter and other children also used to play hide and seek. And she would wonder why there is a debate. I never understood why there is a debate about the story. What is the thing, like they argue about some or the other points in the story. So up till here you have read the story, and from the lesson, also from your course book, you need to go through the lesson and underline the difficult words and write down the meaning in the book itself, and go through this extra questions and find out the answers of it. I hope you have understood the lesson till now, the story till now. Thank you, children. Thank you for all that you do. You are the best in the world. Stay home, stay fit.